afternoon to in-house counsel and in-house legal professionals from all across North America and the world. Welcome to In-House Connect. My name is Shai Mahani. I'm the CEO and co-founder of In-House Connect. I'm thrilled to have you here with us today. A special thanks to our wonderful sponsor, Lawtrades, and our fantastic presenters today, Raad Ahmed, Sardar, and Chris Lalan, who are going to teach us how legal teams can leverage ALSPs to scale and thrive. And I want to say hello to our audience. So we have Austin in the house. We have, I wonder if you were there, Jennifer, when we were in Austin, Minneapolis. We have Fort Worth, Texas. We have Pittsburgh. We have South Florida. I wish I was there right now. Chicago and Miami. All right. Awesome. This is our 31st webinar of the year. And I'm going to skip the poll because I want to get to the content faster. First, some quick housekeeping announcements. That's too bad, Jennifer. All right. Quick housekeeping announcements. At In-House Connect, we always want our audience to get involved in the program, and here's some guidance on how to do that. First, I have a few or three fun poll questions coming your way. So when you see the poll, please participate and let us know your thoughts. And feel free to supplement your answers to the polls in the chat box. As well, speaking of the chat box, that's the other way you can get involved in the program. Hey, Carrie from North Carolina. Again, you're welcome to network through our chat box. And how does one network at a virtual webinar? It's really simple. Draft a blurb about yourself. Tell us who you are, where you're from, what you do, and include a link to your LinkedIn profile page. Carissa did a great job of that just above. So thank you, Carissa, and good to see you again. So if you want to network, feel free to network. And as well, if you have questions, comments as the discussion unfolds, please put your questions, comments, observations in the chat, and we will go from there. Keep in mind that the chat box is recorded. It is publicly available, may be shared afterwards. So keep that in mind as you engage in the chat box. Next, this is not a CLE webinar, no CLE for this one, but we have plenty of CLE coming your way. We have tomorrow a CLE session on workforce compliance and I-9. If that interests you, please sign up. And we have a lot more on the horizon, including next week. Hopefully, I hope to see all of everybody on the panel at the New York City Mixer that we're hosting in a week from today in Midtown, New York. So if you're in New York, please let us know. And we're coming to basically every major city. I have a West Coast swing coming up. I have Atlanta and Chicago and Boston and many more. And we're going to hit up Austin again as well. So check out our upcoming events page to see where we're headed next. All right, let's get to today's program, how legal teams can leverage ALSPs to scale and thrive. I'm going to turn things over to my good friend, Raad, to take it from there. So Raad, welcome to In-House Connect.
Welcome, everyone. My name is Raad. I'm the founder of a company called Lawtrades. Just a quick background on myself and my company before we get started. So back when I was in law school, Lawtrades was just a side project, and I honestly had no idea what an ALSP was or what it even stood for, let alone I'd be running one now. All I knew was that the traditional lawyer's path didn't really excite me. The big firms, the long hours, the grind, that really wasn't my thing. And instead, I wanted freedom. I wanted to choose my clients. I wanted to work remotely, and I wanted to have control over my career. So fast forward a little bit, I built something simple for myself to find clients and send invoices, and soon discovered that I wasn't alone. There was a lot of other lawyers that craved that same flexibility. This little side project that I started eventually turned into a community of independent lawyers that ran their virtual firms off our website. In-house legal teams who are often understaffed and always budget conscious started hiring directly from our platform. They liked the speed, the flexibility, and the transparency that we brought. And that's really when the light bulb moment went off. We had unintentionally built a better way for legal teams to scale their bandwidth without the headaches and overhead of a traditional outside counsel. Without further ado, instead of myself just explaining everything about Lawtrades to you guys, I'm really excited to bring in our guest today, where you'll actually be able to hear from a real Lawtrades client and one of our talented freelancers on our platform on how to best leverage ALSPs. With that said, Chris and Shezi, welcome. Thank you guys so much for doing this. Why don't we start off with some quick intros and dive into some of the questions? Chris, do you want to go first?
Sure. Thanks so much, Raad, and great to be here. It is something that's very near and dear to me recently, as a very happy Lawtrades client. So I'm thrilled to be part of this conversation. My name is Chris Lalan. I'm Chief Legal Officer of a company called One Money. We're a global infrastructure firm in the fintech and digital asset space, and we're also a startup. I've been here at the company for a little under 9 months at this point, growing and scaling the company. from zero. Prior to this, I was a senior legal executive, and I've been in-house in capacity as general counsel, chief legal officer over many years. I've been in-house for about 16 years now and been practicing for over 20. So I've seen all flavors of legal engagements and have managed legal budgets from very small to in the eight-figure range. Really looking forward to contributing my insights here.
Nice. Stacey, you want to go next?
Thanks, Rod. So good to be here. Thank you for having me on this panel. I'm Shazi Sardar. I am a law trader. I work with a variety of clients or law trades, currently with Sony Interactive Entertainment on the gaming side, PlayStation focused, worked with DoorDash, worked with Yelp, Coinbase, and others back in the day when Lawtrades was revving up. My background, I'm a New York attorney. Was a commercial litigator for a few years before I transitioned to transactional and had a stint at Citibank, got into a good bit of financial services, focused work as counsel, broker-dealers, hedge funds, and then turned more toward consumer and digital. Worked with Warby Parker, was associate general counsel at AccuWeather for about 2.5 years from their New York office. So managed a good bit there and been with Lawtrades now, I think 2 to 3 years consistently. And yeah, happy to be here.
Awesome. Awesome. Welcome to the both of you guys, and I'm really excited to dig in. So for the first question, Chris, what prompted you to even start using an ALSP? Can you describe that moment? What was that pain point? And just help the audience members think about what was that initial prompt?
Yeah, sure. Quite honestly, I had spent most of my in-house career at very large firms, publicly traded, large global companies. And last year, when I embarked on this journey at my current firm as a startup, starting from zero, obviously with much more limited resources, we had to be nimble in terms of performing high impact legal work in the most cost efficient manner. So I started looking outside, even though we also have our on our panel, our large law firms. I started looking for other solutions, alternative legal service provider solutions that would enable me to, as an army of one currently, leverage law traders in particular to execute on that high impact work and provide immediate value to the company. So that's exactly what prompted it. And it's been a great experience so far.
Shezi, what are some common challenges that you've seen legal teams face when it comes to leveraging an ALSP and figuring out how to effectively utilize them?
One of the biggest I've noticed is legal teams, internal legal teams being able to gauge capacity, right? What's the need internally? Often these are pretty entrenched legal teams at these corporate clients. They are dedicated to specific focus areas. It's difficult to reallocate resources depending on how fast certain deals are moving or based on shifting priorities coming out of management. So one of the ways that we've been able to help as attorney talent is fill in those gaps. We can be agile, we can be nimble. We're not a large law firm. I'm coming in and I can somewhat surgically doctor and work through a deal flow to ensure that results come out. So it's really a focus and an attention to what the deal flow looks like and what kind of expertise you may need from an attorney, and then reaching out to a company like Lawtrades and pulling in the right resources.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Chris, were there any specific ways that Lawtrades has helped your legal operations scale or streamline operations? Did it make your life easier or more effective in any way that you can share?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think Shezi he hit the nail on the head. I think for us, some of the common challenges we see just generally as in-house counsel, where I believe that alternative legal service providers can definitely provide a significant amount of value, is those shifting priorities and those fast-paced matters that Shezi was alluding to. I think some of the large law firms that I've typically relied upon can sometimes be a little bit slower, certainly way more costly, and somewhat hierarchical, particularly when you're trying to get a matter done in the most cost-efficient manner. And in some cases, you'll often speak to, at the large firms, you'll speak to a partner or two or three, and they're actually not the ones that are actually doing the work. It's being passed off to enough counsel or even one or more associates. With Lawtrades, for example, I can retain highly experienced attorneys with a decade, 2 decades, potentially even more experience in the particular area that I need support on, whether it's high volume work or complex niche issues, particularly in our industry, in the fintech and the digital asset space, which cut across the widest possible swath of financial regulatory issues. It's comforting to know that using a platform like Lawtrades, I can retain an attorney with significant experience at the level necessary to engage on a matter and get it done rather quickly and at the velocity that we're moving at.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think even in the last 10, 15, 20 years, the internet and software has enabled really talented people to be able to deliver legal services online without needing to go into a law firm and do that first. So you get that immediate cost advantage. Shifting gears over to you, Shezi, what would you say are the type of work that is best suited for an ALSP versus sending something more to a traditional firm? Because it doesn't seem an ALSP is supposed to be something that just covers anything and everything. There's a right place, right type of work for it. And for us, we still see clients use traditional outside counsel for certain matters. Could you just walk us through
Sure.
some of the differences in kinds of work there?
Sure. I think Chris really captured it in terms of closing the gap, in terms of a little bit more of that focus and the shifting priorities of a company. And that's where law traders such as me can really be an asset, I feel. What I've noticed, and I've worked directly with traditional law firms, even as a freelancer at these corporate clients, I'm often entrusted to negotiate or work and collaborate with large law. So what I've noticed is when it comes to fast moving deals, when it comes to revenue generating agreements, the bread and butter, redlining, negotiating, someone like me can be an asset. Again, nimble, agile, focused. Maybe it's a new product. Maybe it's a new piece of technology that the company is looking to launch. And I may just have that area of expertise in my wheelhouse. What I've noticed with traditional law or large law is they often tend to over-engineer some of these deal documents. It can get time-consuming, burdensome, right? It can stretch things out. They're looking to bill in a different manner and structure. What I have noticed is they tend to be a bit more beneficial for larger M&A type deals, supplementing us, working through the itemized checklists of larger acquisitions and such, specialized regulatory issues, right? Maybe an attorney in-house may not have some specific or obscure banking regulatory expertise, and outside counsel could be a big benefit. We've done that. Litigation, right? Certain contracts that have more sensitive regulatory matters that really should have a second set of eyes from an attorney that really focuses or specializes in that from large law. So really as a supplementary aspect, I've seen it to be quite beneficial. But when it comes to core bread and butter, rev generating deals, we needed this yesterday. I haven't seen large law to be the best fit for that.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. And as you were chatting, it looks like we got the second poll up. I was asking, how do you feel about your traditional law firms? And we'll get the results soon, but it seems like the answer of they're fine, just overpriced is in the lead. No surprise there. Chris, when you initially engaged a platform like Lawtrades, was there any initial concerns or hurdles that you experienced when you started, especially particularly to those in the audience that may not have ever engaged in ALSP before? What were some of the initial concerns and how did you overcome them?
Yeah, I definitely had some reservations and a little bit of fear experimenting with ALSP. I'm admittedly guilty of, in my in-house career, up until recently exclusively leveraging the large law firms on our panel at my different shops. And that was also in part a result of being at large global operations that had significantly larger legal budgets to play with. Utilizing alternative legal service providers wasn't necessarily something that was front of mind. But when I came here, obviously, as I mentioned earlier, with the trying to be as nimble as possible, deliver high impact work, and be as cost conscious for the company. In reaching out, I was a little nervous and had some concerns about whether I could entrust, as Chezi was mentioning, whether I can trust an alternative legal service provider to lead negotiations, to handle high volumes of these revenue generating contracts, or just any type of service contract, or day-to-day matters that still take time, but are as important for the business as are the strategic matters that I typically focus on. Other reservations were, how would I upskill someone on the Lawtrades platform to the very nature of our business, which is extraordinarily novel and complex, and being in the digital asset space that, again, cut across pretty much every single category of financial regulatory issues. And then there were also some reservations about, well, I engage with Lawtrades, how do I ensure that my engagement with the law trader that, who will actually be providing the legal services will preserve confidentiality, right? How am I going to get my arms around that? How am I going to get my arms around managing expectations, providing real-time feedback, integrating them to the team, and making sure they have the experience not only to interface with the clients as they would if they were in-house counsel or external counsel that had a relationship with the company for years. So a lot of things that were going through my mind. And I think, to be completely candid, I was very pleasantly surprised with how quickly and how easily it was to resolve all those concerns that I had in terms of at least the folks that I've been engaging with through the platform.
Nice, nice. And Shezi, on a similar note, could you share any misconceptions that folks might have about using an ALSP that you may have come across, and how do you help clients get over that hump if this is their first time trying to engage an ALSP?
I think Chris really captured that point as well. His concerns are understandable and valid. And I think it's up to us as attorneys affiliated with an ALSP, really show our clients that we are capable and we're quick studies, that we are agile, that we can integrate into a company client's systems, their culture, their mission, and really be an asset. What can I do to help you? Right? How can I really help boost and alleviate capacity and burden issues for you and your team, right? And I take that as a personal mission and then fold that into my career. For me, I think one misconception I've seen is that we may not have the expertise or training, that we may not be as seasoned, but many of us are. We are valid and fully practicing lawyers for years, some from large law, there's with significant in-house experience and having honed in our skills and know the lay of the land at how companies work internally. Some of us may have done much bigger deals than what we're even used to at some of our corporate clients. We have attorney judgment, we have effective communication skills, we have the expertise that you need, and will really show up. I think that is something that I've seen many to be pleasantly surprised about, and then becoming very comfortable and becoming champions and advocates for ALSPs.
Yeah, and Raad, if I could just chime in there, 100%. I've been so pleasantly surprised with the caliber of the talent that's on the platform. As Shezi mentioned, there are general counsel with significant years and amounts of experience substantively and technically that I've interacted with that have just wowed me in terms of the breadth of their experience, like the kind of work that they've done that could definitely fill gaps when there is a need. And I think that just makes the conversation a lot, or it certainly alleviates the reservations that any in-house counsel or general counsel engaging in ALSP would have. One, but it also, to Shezi's point on it being the mission to integrate well, to be a quick learn, I've absolutely found with the several folks I've engaged with that willingness, that proactivity, the ease by which they've been able to upskill, again, to a very complex area of law that we navigate through, and really just integrate well with the team. And, it's certainly something that I have completely pivoted on in terms of my own view towards and perception towards alternative legal service providers, as opposed in terms of not only the caliber of the attorneys that are providing these services, but really the value proposition that they carry hand over fist over some of the large law firms that I've worked with.
So I'm going to jump in a little bit, Chris and Shezi. We're going unscripted here. Chris, you said something really interesting before, which is you were surprised at how good Lawtrades was. That's interesting. What did you anticipate it being like, and how did it end up being?
Yeah, again, this just goes back to my just operating in this space. I was very apprehensive about finding someone on the platform with significant amounts of not only financial services experience, but tech experience and even blockchain, digital assets experience that can really deliver on a lot of these very complex issues we work on. And lo and behold, I start navigating on the platform. And as I mentioned, they're general counsels from some of the, literally top 5 financial institutions on the planet on the platform, and folks that have had experience in the digital asset space and in very complex regulatory areas. And as I started speaking with these individuals, it really corrected a lot of the biases and the perceptions that I previously had about alternative legal service providers. And it certainly corrected the notion for me pretty quickly that top quality work is only available at the top firms, and that's absolutely not the case. Absolutely not. And you can find it with an ALSP at a fraction of the cost.
Yeah, and just to add to that, I think Shad, one of the big shifters we've seen was after COVID. That's when we really saw a lot of growth on the platform. During that time period, we saw a lot of folks leave their big law firm jobs, move out somewhere else, work remotely. The network, the talent has just been distributed over the last 5 or 6 years. And when you look at practicing law, it's very digital in nature. It's a lot of it happens over email, a lot of it happens over Slack. You can work in an asynchronous way if you have those tools. So I feel like that really pushed the ALSP market in this other direction of really high quality, because people, again, are craving that freedom, flexibility, quality of life improvements that I think the 100-year-old law firm model simply wasn't providing in a post-COVID world.
Nicole dropped a great comment in the chat, and she says, perception, the tide has turned from the Sigma because ALSPs have shown their worth. I love that comment. I'm curious, Chris, when you first decided to fill the role, your first ALSP engagement with Lawtrades, what was the motivation behind it? What was the thinking there? I guess, what are the options, right? You can hire a law firm attorney who's super expensive, or you can hire a full-time employee. Maybe you don't have the budget. I'm just curious, like, why were you like, all right, let's give a law trader a chance?
Yeah, look, 100%. And so I engaged large law firms as I do folks on the Lawtrades platform. And in several instances, successfully working with folks on the Lawtrades platform, it really came down to a matter of having someone with the technical background or the substantive background in this area that I was able to meet on the platform that can get through a lot of the heavy work in terms of internal policies and procedures that implicate a lot of the regulatory issues, to help navigate through lower value contracts that don't warrant sending them off to an attorney that's going to charge you $13 an hour. After I met my first law trader and we really hit it off, it essentially sealed the deal for me in that I have a trusted person that I can engage, that not only everybody that this person has worked with at the company thinks is the greatest and integrates well, treats the clients well, is very proactive. You resolve a lot of sometimes what I would characterize as sometimes headaches with some of the larger law firms in terms of the responsiveness, the ability to integrate directly and interface with the client. In the startup world, the ability to just integrate onto our platform and provide services within our own within our own systems. So integrating a law trader into our systems in a secure manner just makes things even more efficient. After going through that experience, it's proven to save us literally tens of thousands of dollars.
That's awesome. It's also probably way faster for you to onboard a law trader from like soup to nuts, right? Like from looking.
Yeah, generally speaking, some of the large law firms I've used, I've had relationships for years. So, I know where to go to, when to go to, and whom. But yeah, in terms of onboarding, certainly for us, that was, as I mentioned, one of my reservations, like how am I going to onboard someone to ensure that they're preserving confidentiality, that they're going to do the work that I can entrust in. And it was very easy, again, back to Shezi's point on the willingness of these alternative legal service providers to engage and just upskill and learn and be part of a team. It's just been great because the real-time feedback, our periodic check-ins, the onboarding, their ability to learn the issues quickly has been a lot faster and quite frankly, a lot more cost efficient than as if you have to send your entire suite of documentation and to a law firm that's going to churn through and bill you at exorbitant rates just to get a junior associate up to speed to do the same level of work.
I love it. One more question, and then I will go back to the program. Shezi, I was a ALSP lawyer once upon a time, and I really liked that I got to work in so many different places, and I thought that was an invaluable experience. You said you were at Sony. I know you were previously at AccuWeather. Can you talk about working at different legal departments and different industries and how that's impacted you and your clients, right, through Lawtrades?
Yeah, I think my experience and any set of experiences that's as diverse as what I've had has been crucial and really beneficial to my ability to quickly navigate and adapt to a client today. At AccuWeather, I was in-house, fully employed, and I really scaled in my learning and understanding of how a legal department is run, really, and what kind of legal issues, regulatory issues can impact a company, how it merges with a company's revenue goals, and what the function of a lawyer really is internally at a company. And here at Lawtrades, having worked across different verticals, I've had the benefit of being a bit of a commercial generalist, but at the same time, getting up to speed on specific practice areas. Some companies are more sensitive about privacy matters, depending on their business model. Some have more regulatory constraints or sensitivities. Again, having to tailor my mind or rewire my brain to each client is something that it keeps things interesting, dynamic, and I can take those skills onto the next client and talk about it with context, right? I have that experience. So it's not just, they're not empty words. They're backed by having done things at a company client and being able to address thorny issues and problems with creative solutions.
And if I could just add to that, not that large law firms don't do this as well, but I think what Shezi makes a really good point. I think it's that the diversity of perspective as really, at least in my personal view, is like someone like Shezi being an extension of an in-house team. So they're really understanding the business. And so when you have multiple engagements with different clients across different spectra of industries or different business models, it only makes someone like Shezi more valuable, because I can certainly say that my engagements have shed light on how they do it at other clients, and obviously without breaching confidences, but their experiences in how they've handled privacy related issues or vendor related, or even just vendor onboarding or legal ops issues is extraordinarily, valuable to someone, especially in our current stage in our life cycle as a startup, as we're building out these functions. So getting that diversity of perspective that like Shezi might have is something that's certainly welcome and definitely carries much more value than if you were to work with someone who's never been in-house before. So just to add that.
Yeah, and it makes a lot of sense because those are the types of people that we vet for on the platform. We let in about 1% of folks that create a profile, and they go through an extensive screening process. And ultimately, it's to get to finding talent that are business-minded lawyers that have been there, that can move quickly, that can make good decisions on the fly. And to your point, Chris, the integration part is actually, and the onboarding and embedding part is something that we think a lot about as part of our matchmaking algorithm. We try to understand from our clients, what are their systems that they use? Do you use Slack, or do you prefer email? Do you use Ironclad or another CLM? Are you a Google Docs person, or are you a Notion person? And we take all those data points and find profiles on our platform that match that so that it is a seamless hiring experience and more importantly, an onboarding and embedding experience. I think that really is what we're going for. And Chris, also, I remember you use the platform in a clever way in the sense that you also facilitated in your own customized NDA signing as part of the hiring process, which we're starting to see more and more now. But I think it's a really, if you want to speak to that a little bit, I think it's a really great way to bring in your own custom playbooks, formats into the hiring process.
Yeah, I think that's right. And again, this just goes back to what Shezi was saying. It's just being business minded, being willing to take that step as like an extension of the in-house team and just being a true partner. So one of my, as I mentioned earlier, one of my reservations was really that how do we engage, an alternative legal service provider in a manner that obviously we're all attorneys, we're all bound by standards of professional conduct and ethical standards under the professional rules. But beyond that, for us dealing with proprietary technology and a lot of insight that we don't want out there in the world, our service providers have been more than willing to enter into our own versions of confidential information and works for hire agreements where we're preserving that confidentiality. We're alleviating the concerns that we have internally as a firm to ensure that beyond obviously the standards of professional conduct, our engagements are all more than willing to walk down this road with us too, because they understand once they get in the door that the value of preserving all of the IP that we have as a company. And I'm sure other companies out there take the same position. And you'll find that engaging with ALSPs is no different than in many respects as you would engage, again, an AM law firm.
But Bradley asked about AI tooling on ALSPs, and for us, we're leaning pretty heavily on AI across both sides of the platform. So if you're a client, we use AI to do the matchmaking, as I mentioned earlier. How do we find that perfect fit that understands your company culture, your systems, even your personality to a certain extent of how you work? And more so, we're also slowly rolling out AI tooling on our freelancer side to help them get through contract reviews, automated AI redlining, getting through lots of contracts, doing that first draft review. For us, it's all about efficiency and driving as much value to our customers as possible. So unlike a law firm, none of the lawyers on the platform have a billable hour requirement. We don't have a very extensive overhead structure where our rates have to be marked up egregiously. We just care about efficiency, speed, and cost effectiveness. And AI is part of that piece of that puzzle to just make things very efficient across both sides. And I see a comment from Nicole as well about making that career move and showing your flexibility and versatility by having an ALSP on your resume. Shezi, I know that you have Lawtrades in your resume and your experience. Do you want to speak to that a little bit about how that has potentially helped you just stand out and just overall from a career perspective? Could you tell us a little bit more about your key learnings of being on Lawtrades and any sort of best practices that you might share to some folks in the group?
Having been able to work with the types of clients I have under Lawtrades is to me somewhat extraordinary. Like the type of clients, the quality of clients, the type of work I am exposed to, the industries that I'm exposed to, and some of the cutting edge legal issues that I get to deal with really keeps my career interesting. And I'm proud to be a law trader. I'm proud to put that on my resume and show people and talk about it if they're interested. For me, as Chris said, is finding that quality talent, finding that one attorney that you can really connect with and click with and have them integrate into your company and onto your team is something that really resonates with me. It's something I take very seriously. And to me, I do feel like I'm an extension of my clients in some ways, or the in-house teams. And that really brings me to a specific point is know your worth. Understand as an attorney coming onto this platform, who you are, what you can offer, and don't be shy about it. Really highlight what your experiences are, what your expertise is, and maybe what your interests are as well. What would you like to do? What would you like to grow in? Right? That kind of curiosity, that kind of eagerness to learn can go a long way, especially during the interview process, right? I have it on my LinkedIn. I have Lawtrades. I have the type of clients that I've worked on, and I find it to be a real plus when it comes to conversation, when it comes to, again, highlighting the variety of clients that I've worked with. And in some ways, I also get a lot of questions about ALSPs through that. What's that like? What's that about? What's the changing landscape of law or the legal industry? And I can then become an ambassador in some ways, which is pretty cool.
Nice. Yes. Love to hear that. And yeah, and I think that to your point, I feel like on the platform, we do have a lot of cutting edge work and like cutting edge types of project that is in demand right now. I feel like there's always this upskilling that's naturally taking place on Lawtrades because we have such a pulse on the market and where it's going. So yeah, it seems like that's something that you've incorporated in as well in terms of upskilling yourself based on market trends and demands.
That's right. And again, that goes into branding, where these individual lawyers on Lawtrades, on the platform. So really knowing how to distinguish yourself, how to stand out becomes key, right?
Yeah.
Many of us have that corporate experience, or we could be commercial counsel or senior commercial counsel, let's say, or GCs and are generalist, perhaps. But then what specific industries or sectors do we have a focus in? What's our perspective on it? Sometimes even writing a thought leadership piece and getting that out can be beneficial, or a new way of thinking about an established legal issue or a specific way of working within an organization that can stand out. Leverage that. Building relationships to me is key. And honestly, Lawtrades is concerned, me personally, I've found a lot of success just during the interview process, right? If one of us is given the chance to be interviewed, really honing in on that conversation, knowing the client, knowing the person you're going to be talking to, the interviewer, being relatable, being conversational, and really emphasizing that you can be an asset to the team. I think that interview process can be a make or break.
Nice. And Chris, as we begin to wrap up here, are there any best practices or key learnings that you would share with the group now that you have used an ALSP before, folks that are considering any key takeaways is worth mentioning here?
Yeah, I think fundamentally, the first thing I would say is that if you are interested in using an ALSP, continue to educate yourself more about it and really know why you would be wanting to use an alternative legal service provider and how you're going to use them. Definitely going in prepared by ensuring exactly how you're going to onboard them, how you're going to manage expectations, manage performance, how you're going to manage the feedback, how you're going to integrate them into the company or into the legal team if you're not inclined to directly have them interface with business folks. These are all like very simple, very easy things that folks can do to best prepare themselves for an engagement. But from a broader, more strategic perspective, just in terms of a legal department, I would just say don't be afraid to try alternative legal service providers. If you're a GC, if you're a CLO, if you're a small legal department, I think it's quite obvious that the role of in-house counsel is changing. It's been changing for many years now. We're not only expected to be more integrated into the business as strategic business partners and deliver value, but we're asked to do more with less. If you can align yourself with the right partner is utilizing alternative legal services providers and having the good judgment of knowing when to use them as opposed to your standing panel of large law firms. But I think it's just one more arrow in the quiver to demonstrate value to your CEO, to your CFO, to the business. And again, not only be cost efficient, but also deliver that value when it's most needed. So that's what I would leave folks with.
Mhm.
Awesome. So, folks, I think we had an awesome discussion with Raad, Chris, and Shezi. There's still more. I want to say a couple of things. So, first, my friend Paul Connors, who I got to meet in Boston, he was a GC. He dropped a really nice comment. He said he was a GC and it was really rewarding, but practicing in an ALSP type setting, God allowed him to broaden his industry knowledge and experience. And that's really awesome. And that's consistent with my experience and what Shezi said before as well. So Rod, I have a question. What are the best, or what do you think are the best engagements for like an ALSP provider? Are there like clear, if you have this problem, we're perfect for you, or talk about that?
Yeah, I would definitely say if you're an in-house leader or you're a GC and you just feel like you're slammed, then you have room for overflow work, whether that's commercial contracts, a lot of transactional work. If someone from your team is going on leave for a couple of months, like a mat leave, or you simply don't have the budget to bring on somebody full time, or it might not make sense to bring on somebody full time because the work spikes up at the end of the quarter and then comes back down. That really is the sweet spot for using an LSP, is really leaning in on our flexibility. We don't have any crazy minimums or requirements, or you have to spend X amount of money or sign like any long-term contracts or retainers. It really is a pay-as-you-go model. It really democratizes the ability for companies to tap into really great talent and not let cost be a barrier for that. So I would say take that time to just take a step back and just do like a time audit. Like, where am I spending most of my time and what could be outsourced to a really smart person that can handle this, so that I can focus on more of the strategic stuff. You should be honed in on the strategic work. You should be working closely with your CEO and figuring out what does the next 3 months, 6 months, what's the strategy of the company from a legal perspective. But if you're bogged down by NDAs, by MSA agreements, by vendor, it's all important. It's good, but there are really great folks out there that can handle that for you and deliver really great quality. So I would say just think about it from that sort of perspective of what could you get off your plate, and so you could focus on more strategic stuff and then think about an ALSP then.
Definitely. Shezi, question for you. You had mentioned before marketing yourself. I think you said, can you talk about that? What does that mean? Like, how do you market yourself? And I feel like maybe after this, we'll talk about just how the selection process goes, like how does it work and what it looks like. But curious, Shezi, what you mean by like how to market yourself better?
Yeah, so I think there are numerous ways. I think definitely make use of social media. Set up an account where you can talk about and share your perspective on a variety of legal issues. If you want to be known for something, right, in the legal industry, you can cultivate that. It's a little out of the box. I know many lawyers typically don't do that, but it can be a great way to stand out from an army of lawyers, right? LinkedIn, who's not on there from our industry? We all are, and we all use it. So what I've noticed, and Shai, you do a really good job of this. You're in-house, but I have a very strong brand. I've known In-House Connect for 5, 6 years now. And when you were first starting this initiative, this venture, and it's grown tremendously. So being a bit bold, having a little bit of courage, and putting yourself out there in terms of content, even if you don't have time to write, maybe there's some news that has come out on a new regulation or a shift in the industry. Maybe you can capitalize on that. Maybe you can add in your 2 cents and put that out there and bring it back to what your professional brand is. So I think these little sort of initiatives are important on an individual level, and being able to leverage that as talking points during an interview, they can go a long way.
Love it. We're going to see a lot more content from Carissa tomorrow on LinkedIn. I think getting to work at different companies and doing different things, there's a lot of fodder for some good LinkedIn content without betraying confidences. So I love that. And thank you for the kind words. So Rod, we'll kick it to you. I'm just curious what like the process looks like from you like a client comes to you with, hey, I need XYZ. How does it work? You said there was an AI tool. Can you describe that process?
Yeah, for sure. There's really two ways you can use Lawtrades. We have a self-serve model where you can go to lawtrades.com. You can basically write a prompt of the type of person you're looking to hire, and our AI will actually fill out the entire job description, talent type, various questions basically in one shot. And you can confirm your budget. So we're flexible there. You can give a range. And you basically post your position on our platform. And after you do that, we have an algorithm that will surface the right candidates to you based on your practice area, based on your industry, based on your systems, your toolings, even down to the time zone that you prefer to work in, as well as how many hours per week. And we curate a good group of talent profiles for you that you can essentially, with 2 or 3 clicks, schedule an interview with and decide on who you want to work with. And then with one button, you can click hire, and we start the hiring and onboarding process. So all of our rates are transparent. They're listed on the profiles. We have a fast track MSA that you can sign. And pretty much within that same day, we've seen some clients post a job at 9 a.m. and by 11 a.m. they're already working with that law trader on Slack. So we try to really just focus on speed and efficiency there. But if you also prefer the old school way, you can hit us up at sales@lawtrades.com or fill out a contact us form, and we're happy to provide you with a demo.
I love the speed and efficiency. I was an ALSP lawyer once upon a time. I loved it. I see both sides, the benefits. All right, we're at the hour. So we'll wrap up here. We'll do closing remarks, and I'll save Raad for the last. How about this, Chris? You want to give a little closing remark? Any advice or final thoughts for our audience?
Yeah, no, thanks for listening in. And again, don't be afraid to at least educate yourself on alternative legal service providers. I was definitely a skeptical in-house leader that never really gave ALSP a thought until I was put in a position where I needed to just get more creative with the budget. So please, by all means, inform yourself about the significant value of ALSP when you're trying to figure out where you're going to be outsourcing your work.
Awesome. Shezi, any final remarks?
No, as Chris said, don't be a skeptic for sure. I think ALSPs are really something that should be evaluated for your team as GC or in-house counsel. We're here. We can be a resource. We're nimble, most certainly more cost-effective than large law. And I can attest to that just in terms of client satisfaction based on the number of years that I've been with Lawtrades. Definitely keep an open mind and you may be surprised.
It's not like a law firm lawyer who's billing who's like got a bill by every tenths of an hour. This is like a person who can come be like just an extension of your legal team. I loved my time as an ALSP lawyer. I made a lot of friends at the various places I worked, and I really enjoyed that part. Aside from providing tremendous cost benefit and quality legal, it was also good just from a camaraderie perspective. And I think that's something easily overlooked besides for dollars and cents. Raad, over to you for the final thought of the day.
Yeah, so thanks everyone for coming. Like I'll say, I think there is an offer for In-House Connect members to get 10 free hours off your first hire. So you can use that towards onboarding and just getting that collaboration process down on us. No strings attached there. And I'll just say, even if you don't have an immediate hiring need right now, it's always good to just get on each other's radar and just learn about the platform for when that time does come. So feel free to reach out to me directly. I'm on LinkedIn. You can shoot me an email, raad@lawtrades.com. Very hands-on CEO. I love talking to our users and customers, and you'll probably see me at a bunch of In-House Connect events as well. So yeah, don't be a stranger. Just say hello. But yeah, really appreciate everyone's time, and thanks for being here.
Awesome. Next week, we're all going to be in New York City. Plenty of time to make a plane ticket, get a hotel reservation if you need to. We'll see you, hopefully, all of you next week. All right, we're going to wrap up here. Thanks, Raad, Chris, and Shezi for a great session and bring me back to my roots as an ALSP lawyer. I love it.
Awesome. Thank you, Shai. Thanks for setting it all up.